Thought to just double check that everyone's aware of which types of fibres can be used in which different sports. So effectively, I should have actually ticked slip film as well. That's wrong. So AFL and rugby and football pretty well can use or do use slip film and monofilament or a dual, or putting the two fibres together. You can use a texturized yarn as well. You can get it longer at a 25 mil or a 30 mil. That's probably more a futsal surface or an indoor soccer surface, where it doesn't have as much sand, and you might be playing not necessarily with studs, more flat sole shoes or an indoor shoe. Obviously, hockey uses a texturized yarn. Tennis can use both. The standard 19 mil grass that we specify is a slit film, a tape, which is 19 mil, and the sand's filled up to effectively 18 mil. You only see a little bit of the fibre on the top, so that supports the slit film. Or if you're looking for a higher quality surface, that you would then move into a texturizer, 16 to 18 mil texturized yarn, which I think is what is going to be put down at White's Fries. I'm not too sure if that's right, Prav, or not, but it can then be used as a multi-hockey and tennis surface. So certainly at the moment we're looking at, it hasn't quite started, but St. Joseph's College that we've won, that's got a hockey field that they want to play tennis and netball on, as well as a multi-line surface. The only fibre that really will suit that is a texturized yarn to be able to play both sports at a correct level. It surprised me. I only found this out recently, is that a texturized yarn has been passed by netball. It passes the slip resistance of the 75 BNPs to meet Netball Australia's criteria. So I always thought that synthetic fibres were too slippery to play netball on, but I'm wrong. Texturized yarns have been tested and passed in that regard. Predominantly netball is played on either asphalt or acrylics rather than synthetics. And then futsal, yeah, literally can play on any of the fibres that are out there. Cricket, your 9 mil cricket turf is predominantly a monofilament. It's a very tightly knit. It's 5 mils apart, no sand in it. So the fibres, because they're so close together, that's what makes them stand up. But you can also use a texturized yarn as well. And golf, obviously, for putting greens, they have tried to make fairways out of long pile, but I don't think it's been that successful. There is one golf course in up around Cairns in Australia that a private operator built that is completely synthetic. Fairways, greens, round the fringes. I couldn't get enough information of it to actually see what it's been made of, but still in existence. Once we've got the grass sorted, the fibre, the infill, and that the next bit to try and sort out is shock pads, and where are they used. In general, shock pads in AFL rugby and football, soccer that is, and hockey, they're always used. And there's two types of shock pads. There's a prefabricated one that comes uniform in terms of its thickness, and then there's an in situ one, which is basically an SBR granule, a 1 to 4 mil granule that is bonded together with a single polyurethane binder, and you mix it together. Effectively, you mix it together in a wheelbarrow if you want, and spread it on the ground and pave it as a uniform layer. But it'll be only as good as it may vary in thickness due to the base that you're laying on. And predominantly it's laid on crushed rock. So if the crushed rock is like a billiard table, then you can lay 20, 25 mil, 20 mil, 15 mil even. But if the base is up and down 10 mil, well, then you might get 5 mil thickness and you might get 25 mil thickness. So in situ pads always have a, from a functionality point of view, I suppose, always have a bit of a risk, is they're only as good as the base that it's been laid on. Whereas prefabricated, will always be 20 mil or 15 or 25 mil, and they'll just follow the surface. They'll just move. They'll just have the same waves as what the crushed rock base is, or the concrete, or the asphalt. Tennis predominantly doesn't have a pad unless it was part of a hockey field, whereas you would have a pad underneath. Lawn bowls on a prefabricated products can have pads. Netball, if you were, I reckon it would be a great idea. I'm a big advocate for netballers to try and play on something a bit softer due to the way that the nature of the game, the landing and stopping, the amount of knees and ankle injuries in netball, I think are nearly more than AFL. So it'd be great to have a pad underneath to make it a lot more user-friendly. And futsal can have it. Cricket obviously doesn't. Just looking at shock pads and talking about some of the types, what we will come across in Australia, I suppose, is predominantly this kind of tiles. This is a Smith's pad. It literally, they're 2 meters by 900 wide, and it's like a jigsaw. You just pull it apart, drop it down. It's a uniform. They come 15 mil, 20, 23, 25, 30, 35 even. Quite good in playgrounds. You can get 35 mil in situ pads and then put synthetic grass over, and you'll meet the Playground Association floor heights. This pad over here on the left-hand side, the Alveo, is a prefabricated, and it comes as a roll. So it might be 50 or 60 meters long. And they're normally about 1 meter wide. So you just lay them out. You have a 100 mil wide jointing tape. You lay them side by side, run a bit of tape across the top to hold them in place. There's many different rolls, different products out there. You can see the little notches in it to help the drainage. All shock pads have incredible drainage. You're talking in terms of vertical drainage up to or over probably 30,000 millimeters an hour. So when we think of say our premium natural fields draining the sand, the hydraulic conductivity of our sand that we're specifying, we're looking anywhere between a community ground of 150 millimeters an hour to maybe an elite field at 350 to 400 millimeters an hour. These guys are draining at 30,000 millimeters an hour. They're just, you tip a bucket of water on them and it just completely disappears. The third one across, the in situ paved pad, is the one that effectively how running tracks are built. It's exactly the same principle, same material. With the in situ pad, you obviously have the ability to lay whatever thickness you want. You can lay it at 15 mil, predominantly hockey fields are laid at 15 mil, whereas football or soccer fields are laid somewhere between around about 25 mil. They, and once again, it's only as good as the base. I thought I'd throw in the last one. I have used one of these once before. I used it on a hockey field, Ballarat Grammar actually. They're combinations of shock pad cum drainage cell. So this is a product that's actually made out of recycled plastics. It's 12 mil thick, so you can lay synthetic grass straight on top of it, 40, 50 mil synthetic grass, and FIFA, there's systems that have been approved by FIFA to play on it. You probably, it hasn't been tested for AFL or rugby, but I'm pretty sure it wouldn't pass AFL or rugby unless there was maybe more rubber put into the actual synthetic grass system above. It's a great, from an economy point of view, it works out because you're looking at shock pads somewhere around $16, $18 a square metre, and if you had a drainage cell at another $7 or $8 a square metre, you're looking at around about $25, $30, $25, $28 a square metre for the 2 layers. This was around about, I think about supplied and laid was around about $20, $22 a square metre. So there was about a $5, $6 saving on a 8,000 square metres, about a $50,000 saving using a combination. The problem is the horizontal flow rate. If you're relying on horizontal flows water going through the surface into this cell and moving horizontally, it doesn't have the capacity at 1% to get the water across the whole width of the field. You actually need to put a center drain in, or you might need two of them in, to get rid of the water into the system without water purging, without it coming back up through the system. So you have to do your drainage calculations to get that right. And sometimes then the additional drains then add the cost, take away the cost savings that you've got by using a multi system.